You will always run out of time and money before you run out of ideas and opportunities to pursue. So once you accept that that is true, then you can get really clear about your yeses and your nos.
Welcome, affiliate listeners, to another upgraded episode of the Affiliated Podcast, where Dylan is making me look so much nicer. My wife might actually think she could stay with me. No, just kidding. She loves me and I love her. But we are joined today to have a very important conversation, the conversation that many of us try and avoid or say that we don't want to worry about it, or maybe one day, and that is taxes. But you need to worry about your taxes, because not only are they going to protect your business and keep the government away from taking all the money that you earn in a way that you will not enjoy, but most importantly, start utilizing the tax policy to your benefit and create actual wealth in your business and in your life if you know the right strategies. So we're going to protect, we're going to grow, and most importantly today, with our guest who is an expert in all these things, we're going to be talking about the big, beautiful bill and what that could mean to you in 2026. So this is something you really need to pay attention to. Strap in, grab a notebook, because we are going to have a very important conversation. With that, let me introduce our amazing guest. He has his own group of people that are tax professionals, financial professionals, giving out hugely important advice, not only to us today, but really high net worth individuals. Tons of experience doing this, been doing it for a long time, and we are so blessed and grateful to have him here today. We have Jeff Socha, which might look like it's not Socha, but it is, and it's way more fun to say. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Hey, Kyle, thanks for the great intro.
Thank you. Of course, man. Excited to talk with you about it. Is obviously, for those that have been listening for a long time, you might know that I was an accounting major and was on the pathway to a CPA back in the day. Before marketing, I took a dalliance in marketing and never looked back.
You just had Jeff, too much personality. You got booted.
Yeah, I was told too much personality. That, and then on most personality tests, I tend to live in the gray areas of policy, which is not great for a CPA. They should not do that. They should be more compliance oriented. So I would have been a great CPA to save you money and then put you in jail. I think that's what ended up happening. But not Jeff. Jeff is not one of those guys, but he definitely is a person that could save you and make you money without getting you into prison, which is hugely important and something you want from somebody. So first, Jeff, what I'd love to do is if you just want to give me kind of the abridged version of kind of what led you here today, how you've grown up and kind of gained all this knowledge in this world. How did you find yourself here?
Yeah, I mean, going back to my time as a kid, I always had a passion for finance. And I remember reading money magazines off my dad's bookshelf. You know, I grew up in a family-owned construction company, so my dad, small business owner, blue collar, doing manual labor, and so, but we would get paid to do the work as kids. And so by the time I was 15, I had saved up 20 grand, and which to me felt like infinite money. And I was like, I got to have a financial advisor, so I hired my first financial advisor.
You were 15.
Yeah.
And 15.
I said, hey,
were
Dad,
there any other 15-year-olds in your life that had even $500 saved up, let alone, you said 20,000, 50,000, 20,000, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was like, I'm so rich. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. And I'm saving all this money I get paid for working, So it felt like child slave labor a little bit. The manual in the Texas heat, it's 100 degrees. You feel like you're going to pass out.
You earned
12.
You earned that money for sure.
Yeah, it was tough stuff. But I guess I always just liked saving up more than spending, so that worked out well for me. But I remember asking my dad, "Hey, do you have a financial advisor?" And he had this guy that was like American Express credit card company at one point had like a financial advisor program. I don't know, American Express financial advisor. I think it is what is today now Ameriprise, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, so, it was kind of this, rinky-dink kind of deal. But nonetheless, you're 15, you don't know any better, and I need somebody to drive to my house so they can figure out how do I take this money out of my savings account and put it into things that do more than the savings account?
Yeah, right. Just sitting there.
Yeah. So, and then of course that felt like I was a genius, because this was in the 90s, and I don't remember, this thing was invented called the internet. And so if you put it in the stock market, everything went up. And I was like, I'm going to be the next Warren Buffett. I'm so
Yeah.
smart. Like reading these money magazines is paying off, like to the moon. And,
Yeah.
and so then shortly after I go to college, and then I'm thinking, screw college, I'm gonna be a day trader or something. And then everything tanks, and that was a dose of humility, and that whole deal busted.
And so that was right at the end of the dot-com boom,
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
assuming, right? Yeah.
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 And so long story short, in my 20s, I decide, hey, I'm really good at certain things that I grew up doing, but I really want to follow this passion of finance that I'm interested in, the game of money and investing and all this stuff. And I didn't really know where to start. And I sort of thought, oh, I'm smart. I know what to do. Wealthy people will hire me. Turns out they won't. Um, you know, they're like, hey, kid, this is cool that you got a job and you want to sell me stuff, but no. And so I
Yeah.
thought, all right, well, if I'm going to be successful at this, I have to think about what do these people want to talk about? Because they definitely don't want you coming and selling them on portfolio. Hey, I've got a little portfolio menu, and Kyle, you look like number 3. Let's shove all your money there.
Right. Yeah.
Or you could do advanced planning, which means let me sell you that and some insurance. And they're like,
Mm.
no, because what I found out is that most of the people with all the money, not all, but most of them tend to be self-employed entrepreneurs, business owners, etc. And so I thought, okay, so I would get in front of these people, and they would give me the time of day for some kind reason. And I thought, all right, well, this whole pitch of, hey, Kyle, why don't you take money that you're making in the best investment you've ever made, called your business or your small practice or your whatever, your entrepreneurship thing that you're doing. Why don't we not give that thing any more fuel? Just take all the money you can out of that and give it to me so I can shove it in my things that pay me. And that pitch didn't go real well. So it was like,
Yeah.
all right,
I
well,
imagine so.
yeah, yeah. They're like, my thing does really good, and you're telling me take money out of my company and give it to you to put it in other people's companies who might make 7, 8, 9%. My thing's doing 20, 30, 40%. This isn't adding up, kid. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I'm going to starve if I don't figure this out. So finally, I just had to have enough humility to ask and go, hey,
Mhm.
what if I could help you with anything, what would it be? And the most common answer was, well, I'm getting nailed on taxes. I'm just getting murdered on taxes, just crushed. What can you do to help me cut my tax bill? And it made me think back to growing up in my dad's business, and him always having this mantra of, well, the really wealthy don't whatever. The really, really successful, they've got, a different way of doing it, or the really whatever have some special thing. And I thought, well, what if that's true? And like, it seems like, man, if I could just figure out this tax thing, uh, these people would definitely want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And around that same time, just fortunate, this guy came to me and said, hey, we identified you as somebody that might be good for this new program, where a couple of large political action committees were rounding up some new people to do lobbying for Congress to Congress on tax legislation. And I thought, well, that's neat. I only see politicians on TV. And I thought, wow, I'm going to go to DC. And it felt like political Hollywood for a little bit. And
Right. That'd be fun.
so
Your version
I
of the
spent
West
5
Wing.
years. Yeah. So I spent 5 years thinking, all right. And, after spending time there, you kind of, I don't know, there's a saying that there's always 2 reasons for something, one that sounds good and the real one. So I think one that sounds good is probably that the tax law benefits, people that create housing and jobs and support their communities, aka businesses and real estate and charity. And so that sounds really good. It's also interesting to note that most of the people in Congress own their own business, own real estate, and oftentimes have a foundation. So I don't know, but you can decide which one's the real one. But nonetheless, it was good to get an inside angle on the rules and how people use them. And so that's where that all started. So I did that for about 5 years while I was getting the financial practice up and going. And that was really good and really helpful for me to start just investigating what are ways that I can take, tax strategy or something that maybe a billionaire would be using. How do I bring that down to somebody like my dad, millionaire next door kind of person,
Mhm.
or or I think back in the day, they would say millionaire next door. Now I feel like it's millionaire earner next door,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
The money just isn't quite what it used to be. So instead of the guy with $1 million driving the truck, now it's the guy making $1 million driving the truck, right?
Hmm.
But so it's like, how do I bring that from way up there down here and help people like the family I grew up in? And that's really what got me started. And then all of a sudden, all the people that didn't want to hear that pitch we were talking about of don't invest in yourself and don't invest in your own company, invest in other people's companies, right? All of a sudden, they were happy to have the conversation around how do you cut the tax bill in half.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can invest in my own company, or at least give you some of that money to go pay for somebody else. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love that. And I love, one, I always find it, the amount of people I sit across here and entrepreneurs and successful business owners that, similar to what you said, there's something they did as a kid that was like not normal, right? Like reading money magazines off your construction dad's, like, and really being like, I really like money. Like, that's not the normal thing. We had different stories of people becoming entrepreneurs at very young ages because they just see the world a different way. I always love that. So, well, let's,
Entrepreneurs are wired differently. We were at this.
yeah.
We were at this. I don't even remember what conference it was. Maybe it was Entrepreneurs Organization or something that I'm in. That, and they had this speaker up there, and he was like, okay, what did he? I don't remember if everybody started seating, and he said, hey, if this sounds like you, stand up, or if this sounds like you, stand up, or if he said this sounds like you, sit down, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say everybody, if it sounded like you would stand up. And by the end of it, like almost the whole room was standing. And he said, great. I just read off the list of characteristics of people that are bipolar or something like that. Some sort of like major issue. And it was like, oh, like as all entrepreneurs. And you're like, yeah, entrepreneurs are just wired a little different.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy people with a good purpose sometimes, right?
Yeah,
or not even a good purpose, just good impact.
If most of them knew how hard it was, maybe they wouldn't have done it. And it takes a real intense sacrifice sustained over a decade to really succeed. And so you've got to be just built different, and it's a lifestyle you're signing up for. And so it's interesting, what you mentioned, because when we're hiring people, we have a number of people that work here that have had their own business before.
Mm-hmm.
We have a number of people here that we also look for whose parents were self-employed or had a small business or owned a company, because we want people to have like a real intimate familiarity with what it's like to how an entrepreneur thinks, how a successful business owner thinks, how somebody who's self-employed, the struggles they face, the pain they go through. I mean, they've got this extreme thing. They've got to like birth this thing into existence that was just an idea in their head, and it's like this Herculean effort they go through. And so most of them still have some memory of, well, I remember when I didn't have 100 grand, or I remember when I couldn't afford a house, and they don't want to go back there. They don't want to have to repeat that Herculean effort unless it's of their own choosing. And so there's this deep-seated fear of, will I have enough to live? Like, will I have enough for the rest of my life? Or am I going to end up like, on the streets or something? Mm-hmm. And, so I think where our work brings meaning into that is we're able to take some of their largest expenses, like taxes and other items, and if we can cut those things in half and get those resources back into their hands, those entrepreneurs are going to do really good things for the people inside of their company and in their community. And so we want to have a big impact as a firm. We don't just, somebody asked me, hey, do you just help the rich get richer? And I was like, well, yeah, but I think there's a bigger impact. There's like a ripple effect, because it's like, hey, look, would I rather would I rather help entrepreneurs have more resources in their hands, or send more resources to the government? And I don't think many people would think that the government is by any means efficient or even really effective at most things, whereas entrepreneurs are the ones changing the world. Yeah. So let's get the resources back into their hands.
Yeah. Well, even we said, just as we move on to this, and this will be a kind of perfect transition, is if you think about it, even at the smallest level, tax savings aren't going to be massive or make a difference in your life, right? At the end of the day, the problems that you could solve for might make the rich richer, but solving them for people that are below that level, it's not making you anything, right? It's not really changing your life. If I'm a W-2 employee, what tax services do I really need outside just collecting my refund every year, right? There's not...
max out your qualified plans.
Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of like, what am I... the value to the universe as a whole is very small at that level. But what you do is find an impactful individual with the capacity for a lot of additional impact and bring value and bring them money so they can continue that larger impact, right? For more W-2 employees, for better jobs for people, all that stuff. With that, let's kind of talk about the base levels, and almost like we are answering that question. We are the entrepreneur that's coming to you and say, Jeff, I will give you a big soha if you could save me some freaking tax money, because this is killing me. I'm doing these estimated payments every quarter, and I just want to die anytime I'm riding off to Uncle Sam. So what are some of the base things that you look for in a business that, like, give me like maybe the 2 or 3 things that you're like, if you're not doing this, you're losing money in your business when it comes to taxes. These are the 3 things that every sophisticated, mature, or hell, basic business should be doing with their taxes. Well, and a lot don't. I should say this, most don't.
Let's start with a little bit of context. So we like to organize our recommendations and solutions into 3 tiers. Okay. So tier 1 is really about good accounting, cash flow, entity structure. These aren't really like complex strategies. It's really just good organization, accounting, bookkeeping, et cetera.
It's eat your vegetables, right?
And then so like level 2, maybe we start to enter into, widely known, straightforward sort of strategies that are sort of programmatic in a way. And then level 3 is like your big ticket things, really moving the needle, probably the highest level of complexity and moving parts. Okay. So to answer your question about what like top 3 things would somebody do, I think before we even get into like the level 1 items that we come across, first thing, this is like, I'm going to give you some stuff, and this might be too basic, and we can go deeper, but this is a huge deal. Being proactive. And I know that sounds simple, and people don't love simple advice. I don't know why people don't like simple advice. I love simple advice because it's easy and it's clear, and I can do it. And what happens is so often people call me every spring. They meet with their CPA. The CPA says, this is how much you're going to pay in tax. And then they call me and say, what can you do about it? Well, imagine like we're in a game and the clock runs out December 31st at midnight. And now you're calling me in April and you want to know how I'm going to change the score on a game that finished 4 months ago. Like, yeah. What do you like? How do you, that doesn't work. That's not how it works. You have to change the score while you're in the game.
Yeah.
So that means during the calendar year or during your fiscal year. You can't come after the game and change the score. I mean, unless you want to, go to jail or whatever. But
so, Jeff, I'd like you to change this number to be a smaller one. Will you just do that?
Yeah, you don't need to hire me or anyone for that. I mean, it's just like just change the numbers to whatever you want them to be and send it in and pray. I mean, like it's there's not really much strategy there. That's just called cheating.
Yeah.
So really retroactively, you can just make sure that things are being reported correctly and that there's no errors and things like that. But the biggest movers are going to be, most people don't think about this, is that if you don't like your number in April, you need to think about the current calendar year and what you're going to do before December 31st to change that score so that in the spring, when your CPA who prepares and fills out the forms takes your digital shoebox of data, populates the forms, spits out a number to you that you don't like, you already know what that number is going to be because you proactively determine that number by your activity during the game, in the middle of the game, not at the end of the game, not after the game, but in the middle of the game, you're taking the actions necessary to affect the outcome.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You got to start now for next year, right? If you're worried about your 2026 tax bill, which you should be thinking about it now, which really should have been thinking about it in January.
It's almost like a sleight of hand going on, Kyle, because you have, like people will say, oh, my taxes this year. It's like, well, what year are you talking about? Because CPAs will use they've trained everyone by saying, oh, your taxes this year. They actually mean last year.
Yeah.
And their CPAs always work on last year. They're constantly in the rearview mirror. So who's looking ahead?
Yeah. Not your CPA, most likely.
And this is
regretting your past is basically what they're doing. Regretting and documenting your past.
Yeah, it's a reporting compliance function.
Yeah.
So step one is you have to take control and do something proactive. What do you do proactive? You first have to recognize that your CPA is a compliance person. Their job is to make sure that all of your data is organized properly, reported properly, filed correctly, etc. It's compliance function. Now, does anybody listening think that compliance sounds at all like proactive, creative, engineering, problem solving, critical thinking, solution minded? It doesn't to
God, I
me. Does
hope
it
not.
to you?
If
I
they
don't.
do, I feel like they haven't been listening. This is your first time, and you should turn around
No.
and leave because that is, yeah, not at
So
all.
you've got to understand this difference between compliance function, which is now somewhat commoditized. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like I read an article, one of the big four accounting firms, they're starting to train all of their entry level CPAs that come in as managers instead of associates because they said within the next several years, all of the associate level work will be done by AI.
Yep. Yep.
So you're like the compliance reporting, filling out forms, like tax planning, tax strategy, reducing your tax bill is not a function of filling out the form better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have to understand the difference and go, who do you have on your team that's in charge of your proactive tax strategy? For most people, the answer is they don't have anyone.
Yeah.
It's a void, it's a hole, it's a gap. And then they're frustrated with their compliance person. Can you imagine going to your compliance person in any business, Kyle, and asking your compliance person to help you with like forecasting and what are we going to do around the corner and next
Mm-hmm.
year and let's look ahead and like vision casting?
Yeah.
None of it sounds like compliance.
No, no. In
And
fact,
then,
I'm
and then
thinking about our compliance people, and they'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We just want to focus on what's happened and how do we keep doing that? Like, that's all they care
yeah,
about.
we just want to focus on what happened and tell you what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. We're here to
you
point out
know,
problems, guys. We're not here to solve
yeah,
them. Just
right. Now,
point
don't
out that
ask
they're
me
there.
about today or
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're still working on figuring out what you did last year,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and then we're gonna make you pay for it.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then you go and you beat that person up and you're frustrated that that person isn't helping you with the future. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
So we gotta take matters into our hands to be proactive, and we gotta realize the difference between a compliance person and a strategist. Okay.
That's huge. That makes so much sense too. Again, this is simple advice, but what I love about simple advice, it all honestly, it reframes the rest of the advice that you'll receive, which is why it ends up being so impactful, right? So be proactive, start focusing on your strategies, and get somebody that could be the individual that's actually going to give you those strategies. And it's not your compliance person. Stop going to your CPA and asking them to
No,
save you
it's not
money
their
on
fault.
taxes.
Like
He's like, I don't
give
know.
them a break.
Ah,
Like maybe send them some chocolates and say, I'm
yeah,
sorry for always beating you up.
yeah,
Like
exactly. And be sure to
you're
send
a great
them
form filler outer. You're doing
be
great.
be sure to send them in April when they really, really need all that chocolate and their
Yeah. Or
bodies are
like some
damaged and they're broken. They're like need
yeah,
time. That's when you could send
yeah.
it to
Send
them.
them some coffee and caffeine or something.
Yeah. All right. So
But
you understand the reframe now. So it's like hey guys, you got to be proactive and you need the person that's going to give you the strategy. So let me put it this way. So I think obviously a lot of we're going to assume at this point that people have some level of good accounting. Their compliance is in order because if your compliance is in order, you have different problems. You need to go talk to an operator or somebody else could just make you
yeah.
manage your
That's called
life.
they call that tax resolution.
There you go. Tax resolution. Yeah. So we're going to move past that. We're going to assume all that stuff is in place, or at least they should have it in place. And now let's talk about the next thing. So now I know I need to reduce this bill. I understand I have to be proactive. And I let's say I found the person. What's maybe if they found, and you're the person, they've gone to Soha Capital. They're like, all right, I want to work with you guys. What's normally like the most common first thing that you do for people to start getting their taxes reduced?
Okay, so I'm going to give you some more answers that you're probably not expecting, but I'm
Ooh,
just
I
going to tell you
love it. Surprise
exactly.
me all day, Jeff. I like it.
I'm just going to tell you this is exactly what we do.
Okay.
Okay. This is how we do it. Okay. Step one, this is going to sound probably elementary, is the first thing we do is get organized around cash flow. First thing. We will literally flow chart it. Most of these people have money coming in different sources. They got money going out all different places. And nobody has a clear picture of where the money's coming from and where it's going. So we will literally create what we call a cash flow map, and we will flow chart all of the inflows and outflows of cash and where it's coming and where it's going. And we will identify whatever discretionary cash flow we have. Then we will take that and we will put it into a 12-month, month by month calendar of all expected kind of regular inflows, any irregular inflows, like a liquidity event or a big payday, something's going to hit, right? Same thing with outflows, quarterly taxes, lifestyle spending, any sort of big investments or big expenditures that we know are coming up. And so the first thing we have to do is get really a good handle on the cash flow. Okay.
Yep. That makes
Second thing that
sense.
Second thing we do is we have to get a very good handle on the liquidity. How much liquidity do you have? How much do you need? Do you have any liquidity that's committed? What do we project your liquidity to be, at 6 months, at the end of the year, et cetera? Because if we come to you and say, hey, we need to move $1 million to restructure some of your finances, and in restructuring, there's going to create a significant deductions, and we work it out and say, okay, Kyle, move the $1 million, and you don't have the $1 million to move, our hands are tied. We're stuck.
Yeah.
There's no results.
Yeah.
So we've got to get a handle on the cash flow, and we've got to get a real good handle on the liquidity. The liquidity is usually a big problem because most entrepreneurs have some hatred towards liquidity. They don't have appreciation. They're like, if I got $1, it's going to an idea.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. That's the issue, because every dollar for an entrepreneur is waiting to be spent, right? They don't think about if it's like, if I could touch it, I will spend it most likely. So
here's the thing. Everybody, I hope everybody hears this. You will always run out of time and money before you run out of ideas and opportunities to pursue. Everybody hear that? And if you don't think it's true, just look at the billionaires. You think, okay, let's say Elon's the wealthiest guy right now. So I don't know how he has time. It seems like he should have no time, but he has lots of money. Yet he's not on Mars. He's not out of ideas. He's got more ideas. The wealthiest guy on the planet has more ideas than he has money.
Yeah.
Okay? He has more resources than he has. He has more ideas than he has resources. Right. So once you accept that is true, then you can get really clear about your yeses and your nos. And to get really clear about your yeses and your nos, I'll tell you the hardest person for us to work for, Kyle, is somebody that's not clear about what they want. Sometimes people come to us and it's really clear they don't know what they want in life. And I will tell you this, cutting your taxes is not a big enough motivation to actually go through the process and do what it takes to cut your taxes. So there has to be more meaning. There has to be more purpose. We have to have something that we're trying to enhance or accelerate or grow. And these resources are going to be diverted to that. And in the absence of that purpose and in the absence of that clarity of what you want, you will lack the motivation and discipline to do what it takes to get there.
Gosh, I love that. It's so funny because just yesterday we had an operations expert on, and the first thing she said, and how many times she's like, you'd be surprised how many entrepreneurs don't really know where they're going or why they're doing it. They've lost their why. And they're like, I'm here. And they're just picking out other people's whys because they're trying to find something, and they spiral. And I imagine it's very similar. Like, how can you move forward with a financial plan or any really plan if you don't even know why you're doing it or where you want to go? So I imagine that's going to be very difficult, especially with what I would think when it comes to financial success and taxes and beyond. Discipline matters so much, like assigning all your dollars, which if you don't know why you're doing it, you're likely to just not do it, because why do you care? And you'll spend those dollars on something silly. And the last thing I was going to tell you, that cash flow thing, I know for some people, they're going to think that sounds crazy. How could you not know where all your cash is coming from? Working with entrepreneurs, even having, businesses, outside of this that I've done, holy crap, it happens so fast because most entrepreneurs don't have one business. And they definitely don't have one stream of income. So you get money that's coming from all certain places. Sometimes you forget about things. You're like, oh, I didn't even know about this. So it's really like, that sounds silly, but knowing where all your cash centers are is actually way more common that people don't understand that than people might think. So I just thought that was really interesting when you brought up, because I was like, I've been there before. I've had to be like, I need to wrangle and figure out where all this is coming from. So
here's another myth, Kyle. Here's another myth. Like in the United States anyways, I don't know if this is true outside of the United States, but in the United States, if we perceive the other person to be more successful than us, more financially successful, which is usually judged by their appearance, their clothes, their car, their house, things we can see, we subconsciously assign different value to that person, and we think that they're smarter than us.
Yep.
They make better decisions than us. They don't have the same problems as us. Hell, we probably think they have a perfect family, perfect marriage, perfect kids. Everything in their life must be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's not the case. I mean, I'm telling you, like the client that we have that will probably make the most this year, she might make around 50 million this year
Wow.
of net income, taxable income. Okay. She's got the same stuff, just more of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I
Makes
was going to
sense.
hire this guy one time. This guy was super sharp. And this is how I knew he had no idea what he was talking about when it comes to the clients we work for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember in our final conversation with this guy that I was going to hire this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, something's not right here. I can't work here because something's not right. And I said, what's not right? And he said, people that make $5 million a year, Jeff, don't have these problems. And that's how I instantly knew. I was like, well, now you just told me you don't know anyone that makes $5 million a year.
Yeah.
Because I know lots of people that make $5 million a year. Most of our clients make plus or minus $5 million a year. And I'm like, we see the stuff nobody sees. We see the stuff that you don't see in public,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I would say to those of you that maybe are beating yourselves up, thinking that you're looking at someone else and that they've got it all figured out and all the answers, everything's perfect. Remember this: comparison is the thief of joy.
Yep.
You just know, I can tell you from being behind the scenes, behind the curtains, in the back room, it's not all figured out.
No.
Okay?
Yep.
So stop worrying about comparing yourself to other people and just get your ship in order, get your stuff in order.
I love that. Yeah, that's actually one of the things I love about when we talk to entrepreneurs or people who want to pursue this path, because I think a lot of people think of it as like financial, right? I'm going to become a great person. I'm like, no, you're thinking about it wrong. Entrepreneurship is a way for you to extract the most out of yourself. It's truly a journey of personal development if you choose to accept it. And that's where you could find this being something special and real joy, is when it's a pursuit of me, and the most I could get out of me is when it gets really, really special. So with that, as we're
The
kind of
way I
talking
put
about,
that, Kyle, is everything will grow at the rate that you do.
I like
You
that.
want your income to grow?
Yeah.
What are you doing to grow? You
Yeah.
want your company to grow? What am I doing to grow? I want anything to grow. I want my marriage to grow. What am I doing to grow me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. This is great, man. It's almost impossible to sometimes talk about like finance without talking about personal development, because they're so inexplicably linked if you're doing them right. So let's continue on though. So okay, we have at this point you've got your cash flows. Essentially where you're going, what you want to do with all these strategies. You understand your liquidity, and I'm assuming we already assumed good accounting. I feel like there's a step I missed in there. There was understanding cash flows, understanding liquidity.
We gotta
Oh,
be
and why?
proactive. We have
Yep,
to have
proactive.
somebody on our team that's handling tax strategy
Yep,
proactively.
yep,
Right?
got that. And then and then it was the other one was the why. So those are the three that we said afterwards. Is hey,
Mm-hmm.
where's your cash coming from? Do you know
What's
why
the
you want to do
liquidity
it? And
plan?
what's your liquidity plan? Which I think is always a big one. I don't think a lot of people always think about their liquidity. And just curious, as a side note, this is just my own financial brain. Do you tend to think of liquidity as like a percentage of overall net income? Like you want to maintain a certain percentage of liquidity, and then you're looking at that like 90-day, 6-month, 1 year plus liquidity?
The benchmark I like to use, Kyle, is to have at least as much liquidity as you have in annual taxable income. So if you make $1 million a year, we want to see at least $1 million liquid.
Okay, that's awesome.
Now, if you're on a really high growth, your income will probably be outpacing your liquidity a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to see that liquidity kind of following right behind.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good way to think about it. And guys, just liquidity is not cash. It's just cash equivalents, right? So in other ways,
something you can turn into cash within a matter of days, not weeks, not months, but days. You know?
Yeah.
And so let me answer a few things. I think this is what you really wanted. Now we have some context. You're like, okay, what are like 3 things that we look at? So literally on the first page of your 1040, which is your personal tax return, most entrepreneurs have flow through income, which means it's not C corp. It's like a partnership, S corp, something
like a K2, something like that, right?
And so most of that will flow through onto your 1040. And if you just look at your first page of your 1040, this was enacted in 2018 in the Tax Cuts and Job Act. And for whatever reason, you would be shocked how still today I come across it not being optimized for most pass-through business owners. And that's the qualified business income deduction, which is worth an immediate 20% deduction off of your net income.
Dang,
Hopefully
that's huge.
everybody that's listening already is doing this, but it's not even that complicated, but you've got to get it. And so, I mean, that's just like a low hanging fruit thing. Okay. So the second thing that you can see right there on the first page is, are you paying yourself too much in W-2 wages? Because if you are, or depending on how you're reporting that business income, you might be paying excess payroll tax and self-employment tax.
Yeah.
So we want to do a reasonable wage. I like to think that for most people, a reasonable wage is maybe at the Social Security max, which this year is around 170 grand a year. You know, you don't need to. So if I see some wages at 500,000, I'm like, why are you paying so much in payroll tax? You know,
Yeah.
Or if I see a sole proprietorship or partnership that's not structured correctly, and you might be paying payroll tax on all of the income, you might be wasting 20, 30 grand a year. And this is so easy. We're just changing how you pay yourself. It's literally just going, how do I move the money from my business to me?
Yeah. Right.
These are straightforward things. So that leads us to probably another thing that we always check is, what is your entity structure? And usually, and rightfully so, entrepreneurs that succeed, they're usually focused on, how do I generate revenue? I need to get cash first. And then I got to try to keep cash. And then I try to invest the cash. And then I worry about everything else. So I realized this is not top priority. And if this were top priority, you probably wouldn't succeed because your priorities wouldn't be in line. But we might have to tweak how their entities are structured, because different entity types have different tax treatments. So if you're in a C Corp, we might find double taxation. If you're in a partnership, we might find too much payroll tax. If you're in an S Corp, you know, who knows what we might find. So there's a lot of different things that we look at just right there in the first couple of pages. You know, in 2018, the state and local tax, or SALT tax deduction, was significantly modified. It was changed a little bit again here in the big beautiful bill, but you know, are you leveraging your state's programs to make it deductible or not? I mean, there's just these are just like, some of these things are literally kind of like, when did you pay the bill? Like, it's not like, what check did you pay the bill from? I mean, we're not even talking strategy. We're not even talking complexity or things that are programs or multi-years or strings attached. This is just like, we just got to get the basics. And I'll tell you that it's not uncommon for us to find $100,000 of annual recurring savings every year just in this tier one bucket. Sometimes it's even more.
You know, especially, I imagine, with the employment taxes and paying yourself, because I hear a lot of weird things around paying yourself, like just some weird, it's just how you tell yourself what you're worth and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's stupid. But I could just see that one. I bet there's people listening to this right now. They're thinking, holy crap, I need to stop paying myself so much, because they're just losing money in payroll taxes, right? Not even thinking.
Most people just aren't educated on how that works. And so we're just simply talking about the real basics, you know, and then most entrepreneurs, they use their car a lot for work. So you're writing that off. They use their house a lot for work. Are you getting those write-offs? You know, if you're like my dad, you put all your kids to work, you know, as your summer crew, are you paying them and leveraging their tax bracket? I mean, there's just a whole host of, like, these are just nickels and dimes that are just thrown all over the place. And it's like, well, let's just pick them all up. And next thing you know, you get a whole dollar out of it. And you're like, well, that was neat. Now let's move on to some strategy.
Well, I think that's a perfect transition. First, if you didn't hear at the beginning, go back and listen to what Jeff just said with kind of the basic things in the beginning of your 1040, right? If you're not doing those two things, looking at your income, I apologize, I already forgot. It was the general business
qualified business income deduction.
Qualified business income deduction.
I mean, it's like the best gift to every self-employed business owner, pass through, small business, S Corp, partnership. I mean, there's a huge win. This is the best thing that's happened to people in that situation since the Reagan tax changes in the 80s. The best things in 40 years. And like, how are you not optimizing that thing?
I'm sure people just didn't even pay attention or know it was there, because they went from being a W-2 employee to being an entrepreneur, and now they're like, it's the same, right? I'm doing my taxes the same.
You know, and this I'll go ahead and insert this here, Kyle, because there's sometimes a misnomer that people think that people that hire us don't already have advisors. Everybody that hires us already has advisors.
Sure they do, yeah.
Okay? If somebody comes to us that doesn't have an advisor, that's a huge red flag. Like, I'm like, whoa. You know, I don't know about you. I don't necessarily want to be somebody's first, because I feel pretty good about what we do. And so I'd rather have somebody else set the bar low so that when we come in, they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah, this is really good. Because if you've had somebody else first, I know what we're bringing to the table and it's good. So I kind of need somebody else to give you a reference point, and I don't like being the first. But
Yeah.
the you know, so almost everybody already has an advisor. And this is what you've got to realize. When you're starting out and you're not really making any money and you're just getting going, and you probably don't spend a lot of money on the top advisors or whatever, you're just getting it, you're sort of like checking the boxes that need to be checked.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. As you start to become successful and your income's $1 million, 2, 5, 10 million bucks or whatever, when is the last time you went back and said, well, maybe my mom's cousin's neighbor isn't the right advisor for me?
Yeah. Considering I now make 10 times more than this person does, I need a new advisor.
And so like, you think about maybe their financial advisor and they're like, oh, well, the Edward Jones guy knocked on my door and I answered and I had $5,000. And so now he's my guy. Right. And you're like, do you know that most financial advisors are not financially independent?
Yeah.
Think about that. I was like, do you have a fat gym coach, like a fat personal trainer? Like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, so like, I probably want my advisors to be pretty successful,
Yeah.
And so the same way that internally, when you started out, you might have started your company and had a few interns helping you because you couldn't afford better talent. And then now you've upgraded your key people and you're hiring the best people you can and shelling out a bunch of money. Well, like, what about this sort of outside trusted circle, your CPAs, attorneys, financial advisors, et cetera, that whole professional team that's supporting you, bankers, insurance folks, et cetera, investment, have you upgraded that team? Or do you still have the one you had when you barely had 2 nickels? And that's great. I appreciate the loyalty, but like, let's be real. They might not have grown at the rate that you've been growing.
Yeah.
And if they haven't kept up with your growth, you have outgrown them. And you need to get a team that can grow with you, or better yet, a team you can grow with. Who's ahead of
better.
You.
Yeah.
Hire a team that's a little bit out of your league so that they can help you accelerate and bring the best practices from up here down to where you are.
Now, I actually think that's a really great tidbit is try and hire your advisors for where you want to go, not where you are, right? Like when you feel you're ready, obviously I can't have 2 pennies that I've found to rub together and say, Jeff, let's talk about tax and what things you can do to help me out, right? But like once you hit that level, and even just as soon as you can, the earlier the better. And it's kind of the thing we always talk about. Like you never want to be the smartest person in the room. That means you're not learning, right? You need to find a new room, and it's the same with your advisors. So that makes a ton of sense.
Are you taking ideas to your advisors?
Yeah, right. That's a good one.
Are,
have you heard about this? Or like, I don't know. Let me Google. That's not good.
There you go.
Yeah. As somebody that used to be I was a financial advisor, and just this should scare everybody when I say this. When I was 19 years old, I should not have been giving anybody financial advice. I was 19. I had spent 3 months learning this stuff and had a general interest in finance and things like that. Like I was still shocked how much more I knew than the people around me. But yeah, you would not want me to be your long-term financial advisor at that age. That would be bad.
Yeah. And I think it would make more sense if everybody just understands that all of the national brands are built on sales organizations.
Yeah.
So at 19, you weren't really an advisor. You were a portfolio salesperson or an insurance salesperson or something.
My menu of services, like you said at the beginning, right?
You're like a waiter with a menu from from, I don't know, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. And they're like, here's the menu, go see who you can get to buy it, you know? And it would make more sense if those people were like, maybe their titles were regulated and they were called financial salespeople. Then everybody would be like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm not getting any good advice. They're just selling me items off their catalog.
Yeah. They just need to know what mutual fund they're pushing that month,
Yeah. Whatever the sales manager said or whatever the compensation double bonus was for.
Yep. Exactly. Oh man, I'm going to get a killer bonus. Let me push more of this mutual fund. Hell yeah.
Oh man, if you get 10 of these, boy, you're getting double bonus now.
Yeah. Oh man, those days. So, but no, that's really great. I really love that. So that actually transitions perfectly. Let's talk about that next level of advanced, right? When we start getting the next strategies, what I think, let's put it this way, you've done enough to be disciplined to control the bleeding out, but now we need to get strategic and talk about, okay, I'm protecting my money, What do let's just get, and we don't have to go, this could be obviously huge, but now how do I start putting my money into places where it's really going to start turning things around? So when you guys get that little, hey, we got the tax stuff in there, what's maybe either an advanced thing or a way where you could actually start generating wealth through working with you when you start talking with the high income individuals that you have?
So outside of your business, okay, after you've fully funded your business investments, because your business is going to outperform any other investment.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. But once you decide you want to start building up economic value outside of your business as safety net or some fallback money or alternative funds, et cetera, this is the interesting thing. What I'm about to tell you might be surprising and you might not believe it. I just tell you it's true. I have yet to meet a single person who has become wealthy from investing.
Like, I'm sitting here trying to think to myself, I've known people that had said they have. I don't know if I was actually able to prove that they had, though, if I'm being honest with you.
I haven't met one.
Yeah. Well, I believe you more than the one person that said they had without actually proving that it did. So, yeah.
I know a lot of wealthy people,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a unique experience seeing intimately all their information.
Yeah.
Not a single one has become wealthy from investing.
That is so good to know. That is so good to know. We all like to think that we can, but yeah.
All of the money outside of their businesses is simply to stay wealthy and to exceed inflation. That's it.
Exceed inflation. That's another really good one to think about too. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense though. Like that should be the goal, right? Is more of, like you said, it's preserving. Because at a certain time, maybe you don't want to be as involved in the business, or you'd want to stop being an entrepreneur and exit that business. So you need to have that next step, right? What are the other income generating things that will never be my business, but could still produce something? That makes sense.
Let me tell you what a typical successful financial picture looks like of a successful entrepreneur that's worth $100 million. Okay. 90 plus million is illiquid, tied up, inaccessible in their business, in their real estate, and other tangential assets to those. A single digit percentage of their entire net worth is liquid. So here's what the rookie sales menu driven financial advisors do to that person or try to do. Forget the 90 plus million. Let's just look at your, less than 10% that's liquid. And let's talk about a balanced portfolio and financial plan. How in the hell can you have a balanced plan when you ignore 90 plus percent of the net worth?
Right.
Simply because you can't make money on it. You can't get paid on it. You can't deposit it into a brokerage account. So you say, well, let's just take your liquidity and just try to make that balance. So let me get this straight. 90 plus percent is illiquid, mostly in your business and tangential assets around it, real estate, et cetera. And now you have a single digit percentage of your net worth. So what would everybody listening think the number one priority you should do with that liquidity? Is it to be focused on how much we can grow it? How much risk we take with it? Or is it, how do we build the world's most secure bunker where no one can ever touch it? The government, lawsuits, creditors. How do I make this is like a tiny fraction of my net worth, and I need to protect it at all costs.
Yeah.
And you know what, team? If you can exceed inflation, we're popping champagne because that's bonus. Okay. Yeah. So why in the world would we be first and foremost concerned about the return on this tiny fraction that's not going to make you wealthy? It's not that our clients haven't had good returns. Oh, maybe we got 20% on their liquidity this year. Maybe there were some good private investments that got 10, 15, 20%. It's not there hasn't been like some good returns sometimes.
And they're fun to talk about at the country club over golf or a beer, right? You like talking to your friends about the
you're having a happy
return
hour
you had.
Kyle, I got 20% on this deal and I feel great about it. Cool. Yeah. But like, But okay, if you knew it was going to do that, why didn't you just borrow as much money as you possibly could and put it on there? Oh yeah, because it was risky as hell. And you're talking about the one that worked out, which is why you only put 100 grand or
Yep.
250 or $1 million in it. You didn't bet the farm on the deal.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Which is why the 20% on a little bit doesn't change your life. It's
Mm-hmm.
not making you wealthy. It's
Mm-mm.
just offsetting the ones that you lost and the ones that didn't do much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're
Preserving
still
more
at
than anything, right?
10%,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You see what I mean?
Oh, totally.
And no one talks about this. No
No.
one talks about this. And I just trust me, it's true.
I could not. I like the more you're taught, like when you ask the question, I was like, no, there has to be somebody. But then I started really thinking about it. I'm like, no. I think it's just investing's really fun for us to talk about. It's fun to watch shows about it. It's fun to
So is
think
sports
about it.
gambling.
Yeah, sports gambling super fun. In fact, I find investing in sports gambling really, really similar and equal amounts as fun, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. So,
Yeah. Because everybody loves the time that you win. It's like
yeah,
let's go to Vegas and have fun,
yeah,
and then let's talk about the time we won.
yeah.
But
But the best
if you want to
investing
be
is like the
prudent,
least sexy, right? It's set it and forget it, blue
right,
chip, things like that.
right. It's like what Buffett would say. The
Mhm.
problem is no one likes to get rich slowly.
Yeah, exactly. Because
And
getting
that's
rid.
coming from a dude who's one of the wealthiest people in the world. Now
Mm-hmm.
you could somebody listening might say, well, Jeff, are you ignorant? Have you never heard of Warren Buffett? He made his money investing. I will challenge you that he did not become wealthy from investing. He became wealthy from owning an investment company. He started a company that was in the business of investing. And the way he made his money is by other people investing through this company and him making profits off of running the company of investing, the business of
Mm-hmm.
investing. And his ability to participate is how he became wealthy, not because he had a bunch of money, he parked it, and then it just made him super wealthy.
Yeah, he had to turn that into a business to ever create that massive
You might
wealth.
say, well, what about a real estate developer? How do real estate developers make their money? They don't make it because they were rich and parked it in somebody's real estate deal. No, they put the deal together, they structure it, they raise capital, they develop it, they manage it, and all of that business activity of the development of the real estate generates significant fees for them that they take those fees and then put into more deals. And that's how they get wealthy, is from the business of the real estate,
Mm-hmm.
not from the real estate return.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that because it really helps you, again, perspective. What is the perspective of when I'm investing? I'm not going to double my income on day trading, right? Like this is not going to happen. So I'm curious. So when we talk
I mean,
about
it
that,
could. It's just the odds aren't in your favor, right?
yeah, I should say that, like, could you? Yes, like the fallacy, or a statement that more entrepreneurs should say less. Could I? Well, yeah, maybe, right? Like, will I? Is the better version of that. But yeah, you, like
One of the problems here, Kyle, is that our society is trained to want, like, instant
push rolls.
gratification.
Yeah, it's not
So
getting better. It's
we
not getting
want get
better
rich
either.
quick. We
Yeah.
want get rich quick. Even if we said, hey, what if you went slow and you could be Warren Buffett wealthy? I don't care. Give me the get rich quick scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to get rich quick. It's like, I think the best analogy is the weight loss industry.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, no one's getting rich from selling eat less and move around more programs, even though that is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, surely there's a shot or a pill or a program or a system or something I can buy and order and subscribe to that will magically make me like the cover of Men's Health.
Mm-hmm.
No, eat less and move around more.
Yep.
But people don't like that advice because it's too boring and practical. And they're like, no, I just want to like order something.
Yeah. Well, and then the story is so exciting. What if, right? The potential of it working is so appealing and alluring because you could be a part of that story. It was interesting. I talked to a
I think there's a
neuroscientist
lot of
friend.
people listening that are really good at marketing.
Yeah.
So, I realize y'all's job is probably to like create all that allure
Yeah,
and
it
attraction
is.
and
It is
whatnot.
exactly what we
But
do. But it's also
the
understanding.
wealthiest
Yeah.
families do the most boring stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I was talking to a neuroscientist and I was like, dude, their whole thing, they do this big stuff around like big, huge data research things, like massive data sets. They've seen some of the biggest medical studies out there. I was like, all right, you've seen all the things. Like, what is the one thing that truly people should focus on when it comes to health? And it's funny because, we brought it up. people should just try and lift heavy things 3 times a week. That's really it. Particularly from like, you should make it a heavy emphasis from 18 to about 28, really focus on it, and then just maintain for the rest of it. You'll be fine. The
And
rest
don't eat
is
too
all
much.
variable. Yeah, pretty much. That's just, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's like, yeah, let's do that.
We're going to
The
stick to
crazy
real
thing,
food.
the crazy thing is lifting heavy things 3 times a week, not getting big, just lift something heavy to you 3 times a week. The effects it has on brain health and lack of Alzheimer's and things like that in these large data sets. I was like, huh, okay. But that's way boring marketing. So I'd rather have a 5-second salt hack that's going to shed weight and turn your body into a fat burning furnace.
Well,
That sounds way more fun.
I've been on a journey with my team to increase our discipline. Okay. We had this fly in of our team. We brought in some facilitators and we did some breath holding exercises. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
That, most people can hold their breath 5 minutes but yet they give up before they get there. And you have enough oxygen. It's just your ability to tolerate the buildup inside of you of the carbon dioxide buildup that takes place. Yet you have plenty of oxygen. You're not going to pass out. You're not going to drown. You're not going to die. Yet we give up.
It's the
right?
fear response, huh?
So I took that lesson of discipline and started applying it with eating and food, because you get that opportunity every day. I just recently completed my first long-term fast ever, 100-hour fast.
Dang,
100-hour fast. And once you realize, my body's going to be totally fine. I'm not going to die. And then you get to practice overcoming that sensation or desire to eat, right? And so it's really a lack of discipline with our finances, because like you said, entrepreneurs, we all usually have something screwed up in our childhood. We'll save that for the next episode. But
yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's like we're all trying to prove something to the world. And a lot of us, the way that we want to do that is, well, I'll show you, I'm going to get a big house. I'm going to get a bigger house than anybody I know has ever had. Or I'm going to have these fancy cars. Or I'm going to, I'm going to fly around in helicopters. Or I'm going to do whatever. And then, but it's like, one of the best sayings I ever heard was that rich is about income and wealth is about assets. Right. Another way to say it is that rich is the stuff that you see, and wealth is the money that's never spent that you never see. And so it's like, I'm interested in lasting wealth, which means you're not going to get any of that worldly affirmation of, whoa, look at that amazing, you got a helicopter, or you got a plane, or you got a yacht, or you went to, whatever. Like, you're never going to get any of that, because the wealth is the true wealth is going to be the stuff that's not seen.
I love
that's
that.
not spent.
Yeah. Wealth is the money you don't spend, right? That's really great. Right. I like that.
So it's about discipline. And so I've always struggled with my eating. And so I was like, well, I'm going to increase my discipline by attacking that head on. And
man, so we're in the same season right now, Jeff. Discipline has been my main focus for the second half of this year. It's just finding micro places to hyper focus on discipline for, and just expanding. So I hear you a lot. That's
great. You want to think about liquidity. I mean, think about how much cash, like 400 billion, that Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on. Patience, discipline.
Yeah. It truly is what it is. It's funny how we lose sight of that and the money side of our lives, but then we live it in a lot of other sides of our lives. It's always really interesting. So, well, with that, let's actually go, because this has been really great. And I know we went a little long with the technical issues, but I really appreciate your time, Jeff. And I really want to get to the part that I'm most excited about with this is the big, beautiful bill. And some things that are going on with the big, beautiful bill that people should be paying attention to. Because I think we only have probably about 10 minutes left. And I figure it'd be good for us to start giving you some time back in your day if you're doing us so much. But with that time, if there's any maybe highlights, if maybe one or two things with a big, beautiful bill that people really need to be paying attention to, especially when it kicks into next year. I'm sure there's many more than just 1 to 2.
Yeah. So let's do kind of a rapid fire of some of the highlights. Okay. So fortunately, the big, beautiful bill got passed with the tax provisions in it, because if it had not been passed, everyone listening would pay more taxes next year. The tax rates were going up. The tax deductions were going away. We were all going to pay more tax next year. So fortunately, this got passed. Okay. The main things that it did, remember we talked about qualified business income deduction. That was extended. Yes, there's some little things in there for overtime and tips. That's more, I think, to fulfill maybe campaign promises. It's nothing substantial or that will probably apply to anyone.
Yeah.
They actually attacked charitable giving in a little bit of a way,
Hmm.
where there's a maximum deduction of 35%, even though the top bracket's 37. So there's a little 2% sliver there. And
Hmm.
then the first 0.5% isn't deductible. So it's really interesting. We've never seen these kinds of moves with charitable deductions
That's
before. So
interesting.
that's really interesting. So you might think about loading up on like a donor advised fund this year if you're somebody that likes to give money away every year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this was surprising to me. Everybody thought opportunity zones were going to go away, which is a thing that came out in 2018. This brought it all back in full effect.
Oh,
So there's
awesome.
going to be a lot of planning opportunities around opportunity zones. The state and local tax deduction we talked about got messed with. It went from
Real
a
fast, for
10,000
those that aren't familiar with
40.
opportunity zones, can you just talk about that real quickly? I realize there might be some people that hadn't heard that before.
Congress basically picked they drew some circles on the map and said these are areas that are struggling and could use investment. And if you invest there, you can get some special treatment on capital gains.
Yep.
Much of which is like if you invest there over a 10-year period, you could get no capital gains tax on the asset. But there's also cool things you can do, like you could invest in oil and gas inside of an opportunity zone,
Oh,
and
nice.
then you can get a markdown on the value and get maybe a 40% write off. So if you're coming out of a big gain, you could go in there and get a huge write off right on that.
Dude, that's
So
huge.
that's a strategy most people have never heard of, don't know about.
Yeah, well,
But
boy, that would be so nice, especially as you don't have to even eat that capital gains because you roll right over it
like if
then.
you have a
Yeah.
$10 million capital gain, you decide to invest like the way I just described, you get a $4 million write off. And depending on where you are, 25%, that might save you about $1 million to do what I just mentioned
Yeah, yeah.
in
That's
that
nice.
scenario. So that's in there. I think they fixed some things that were really bad policy. So the tax treatment of increasing research activities, which is most commonly known as research and development tax
Yes.
credit, that was changed where you had to capitalize, which means you didn't
Yeah.
even get to expense, which
So
is
stupid.
terrible for
Worst
innovation in
thing
our
ever.
country.
Yeah.
So this brought back the ability to go back all the way to 22 and amend those returns. There's not currently guidance. We're waiting on guidance from the IRS on how to do it, but you can expense all of those items that were capitalized, which would be really great for all the companies innovating. So that's a nice fix. The
That's great.
depreciation schedule, bonus depreciation was getting phased out. They brought that back in full effect, to 100%. I think that will really boost things like equipment sales and plane sales and things like that. So that'll be really healthy for the economy. I think
Mhm.
the expensing research and development activities will be healthy for the economy. It'll spur
With the
innovation again.
AI deficit that we truly have in the global sphere of technology, unleashing R&D again would be
Yeah,
really, really important. I hated
huge.
that. Was one of those tax changes that never made sense to me. I was like, this is the
Yeah, you're
dumbest
like
thing.
you're like, why would you do this? Like, you
Yeah.
don't want people innovating in our country? Like, this sounds terrible.
Well, I know
So
there's a lot of people believe that was just a space for companies to store money, but guess what? They have to spend money to put that money somewhere, right? So it's still
how are
creating
you going
jobs
to
and income.
innovate? It
Yeah.
costs money. You gotta, yeah, it made no sense. So they brought back the full bonus depreciation, which is really great. And
Yep.
that's also, some of these things are retroactive, which is really interesting. Usually you only see them on a go forward basis. Hey, this will
Yeah,
start
that's
next
really shocking. So they're
year.
really looking to
But
release in 2026. You should see a lot of cash flow into
even
the
right now,
economy.
I mean, the
Even
bonus
okay.
depreciation goes all the way back, and I don't know why, but it goes back to Inauguration Day. But so anything from like January 19th, I think, that was put in place this year,
Mm-hmm.
you can claim. So that's really cool. They made some great changes with that'll affect a lot of startups that are C corps, where there's a Section 1202, and it would allow prior for $10 million of capital gains tax free. Now that's up to 15, and you can have partial participation even at 3 years, and then a little bit more at 4, and full participation at 5. And the max is either 15 or 10 times your basis. So like we're working with a
Wow.
client that has $10 million of basis, which
Mm-hmm.
10x the basis means 100 million
Dang, that
tax
is
free gain.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, she's going to clean up on that deal.
Yeah.
So so those are some of the big highlights that took place in the bill. It was simple modifications to some of these things. I think either fixing them, correcting them, kind of straighten them out. Some of the things kind of got, the easiest way to describe is extended. But I mean, estate tax got changed a little bit. We're at 15 million per person instead of 14 and like 14.8. But that was set to get
That's
cut
more.
in half. So
Oh,
now that's
oh.
preserved.
Oh, yeah, I
So
forgot they were going to be cutting that in half. That was also when they were trying to
they were going to cut that in half.
and exclude something else that you could put against the allowance too. I remember I got really angry about it because Anyway, if there's a tax I hate the most, it's estate tax, but we won't go on that. So
it's the full on double taxation. You're taxing stuff that's already been taxed. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are probably the quick highlights. I realized I was
awesome.
rattling pretty fast, but that's a lot of it.
No, I think that's great. Well, let me ask one other question then. Outside the highlights for the positives, are there any things that on the negative side that business owners or mostly just high income individuals should look out for and go, ooh, I'm not going to like that as much, or I should probably prepare for it?
Man, that's a good question. Nothing comes to mind right away. That I don't. I mean, the negative piece would probably be the charitable piece.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do the math, it's not.
Well, we're talking like it's $2,000, right? It's a $2,000 difference, basically, right?
No, well, it's 2% on the rate.
Oh, 2%. Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, on $1 million donation, that's $20,000. So it's like,
it's not nothing, but it's not
nothing, but it's kind of a negative. And the first 0.5% of your taxable income is so if you made $1 million a year, the first 5,000 of donations isn't deductible. So, I mean, that's a negative for sure. But it's not like a huge negative. I mean, it's definitely negative, but it's not significant, I don't think.
Honestly, this has been fantastic, and you know so much of your time. But what I want to do is, first, I think this is something we might have to do again, especially when it comes around into the January timeframe, to have you come on, talk about more tax stuff, more things. This has been such a great conversation. I've enjoyed it so much. But for those that are out here listening, thinking, "Holy crap, I need to talk to Jeff because this is the advisor that I need and I don't have." How do they get a hold of you and your team to start having those conversations and getting you to start saving, protecting, and growing their wealth, not just their riches?
Yeah, probably the best place is just to go to talktaxwithjeff.com. You can also always go to sohacapital.com.
Soha, man, dude, it is the best. Once you learn Soha, it is just the funnest last name to say. I hope you have a family member or a child with great athletic endeavors, so we could just start some Soha chants in like a baseball stadium someday in the future.
There you go.
That'd be great. Beautiful, man. All right. Well, with that, please reach out. This was amazing. The advice was so impactful, so huge, so helpful. And gosh, I mean, get me excited for the big, beautiful bill, which I won't tell my wife because she is less excited about the big, beautiful bill because she doesn't have to pay taxes. So with that being said, though, really appreciate your time. And for all those out there, please rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. Also, send us some more questions outside of business that you want answered. We bring in business. We know this is the biggest investment in your life, as Jeff had talked about, but sometimes you need a little bit more to help you out. So reach out with those questions. And if you'd like to hear from Jeff again, if you'd like to have him come back, talk more tax stuff, please let us know. We're going to be talking to some of our top listeners as well, see what their thoughts are, because I think it'd be great to make this more of a reoccurring thing. And that's not just because I want to talk about finance and accounting. It's because you guys need to know about it. And damn it if Jeff isn't the best at talking about it. So with that, until next time, please be safe. And if Thomas was here, he would tell you, happy scaling. Jeff, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kyle.